On this week's Farrell Sports Business Podcast, we're going to go into Olympic mode with a bonus episode. This is an exciting one because we have a two-time Olympic gold medalist who started his own media company, bit of a free spirit, and willing to say anything that comes to his mind, which always makes every conversation so much fun. And for those watching on YouTube, they're going to be able to watch this picture behind me fall in real time throughout the course of the podcast. But more importantly, at the beginning of the Olympics, swimming in particular, we're going to talk about the CEO and founder of SwimSwam.com, two-time Olympic gold medalist, and just an overall fun conversation and a great guy, Mel Stewart. Mel, welcome to the podcast. So awesome to see you.
We talked off camera, and I'm going to say it publicly. I was extraordinarily upset that you had Evan Morgenstein on before you had me. I thought that we were tighter. I thought our friendship was stronger. I saw the pod, and I'm like, when's my invite coming? And I noticed that I was the silver medalist behind our circle of trust, and Evan was a gold medalist. And I was like, I don't think Matt read the memo on this one.
Oh, funny. Well, first of all, I'll own that one. Second of all, I wanted you closer to the Olympics. So,
Good dodge. Good dodge.
We'll go with that. So, let it go.
We're going
to move on.
I'm going to say this. We've known each other since. What were you doing in the 90s with USA Swimming?
My first event was the World Championships in Perth. And is that 91?
It was 19. That was my World Championship when I broke the world record.
Yeah.
And so we have history. We've got entangled roots, and so I witnessed you. I knew you then, and then I knew you as someone in the C-suite, as someone who was, let's just say, you were an extraordinary executive who you know how to handle yourself.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's very kind, and it's been mutual respect since then. Really quick story, that I was an intern. I offered, you want to talk about how to get into network and find a job later? That internship, I offered to pay my own way and work for free at that World Championships purely for the experience of it. And USA Swimming at the time said, sure, come on, kid. And that's how it started.
Take your free labor.
Okay, let's talk about swimming and the Olympics and you and your career. For those who are not in swimming, maybe describe SwimSwam, your role with it, and we'll start there.
I think SwimSwam is the USA Swimming version of, like, if the USA Swimming was the Department of Defense, SwimSwam came out of DARPA. It was Swim Network. I worked at Swim Network, and I worked, officially. I think that my direct was not you, but you were over Swim Network at a certain point, and Swim Network was the governing body's news platform, and it was a partnership with Wasserman, and it was going to be swimming, gymnastics, track and field. And to
That's right.
USA Swimming's credit, USA Swimming did it, and it was probably Friendster in the business aspect. If you're thinking about it, it's like it was the right idea, it was good, it made sense, but it was just a beat too soon, and it didn't quite get there. And when it didn't quite
Agreed.
get there, I took a chill pill for about 8 months, and then we launched SwimSwam. SwimSwam is 127 contributors globally, reporting original news in 6 languages. The former EVP of Condé Nast Analytics, bless their heart, tweeted out our analytics 30 days trailing on the way up to trials, saying, hey, here are the winners in the Olympic news category. And it was SwimSwam News, Associated Press was second, ESPN was third, New York Times So we've known that since 2016, and we take a lot of pride in it because it was we do that with just reporting swimming news and not all Olympic sports. So
Yeah.
three shifts of people reporting swimming news all around the world.
So it's funny you mentioned Swim Network in the beginning of it, and this is a longer story. I would say right idea, but we as an NGB, you think you can be a media outlet, and it's just not in their DNA, and so it didn't work for a lot of reasons. But I think at the end of the day, you say you're going to cover the hard stuff. You say you're going to be fair to the rough topics, but you're not. And when it comes down to it. But in all seriousness, was that, because I wanted to ask you anyway, is that the origin of SwimSwam? Where did the original germ come from? How did you start it? And I'm not asking dollars, but how did you fund it initially? And how did you get it off the ground?
I thought for a period of time that I was going to just move over to usaswimming.org. I wasn't sure. And if I had just been a little contributor over at usaswimming.org, sometime started. And so I'll put that at your feet. It's your fault. Or
Fair.
it's your
Yeah,
gift.
I'll own it. I own a lot. So
it's your gift. It's your gift to my wife and I. So I'm coming at the aquatic market with decades and decades of relationships, lots of peers, and I know that I can sell, and I have a certain skill set, and I tried to convince my wife that we should go in another vertical that paid more money, and she said, "Honey, it was tech. It was
yeah.
a really developer heavy business," and she gently reminded me that I didn't have that sophistication or skill, and that I would get eaten alive with quality control, and that maybe the media bucket was a better bucket, and that was a long conversation between spouses, and then we went through 500 different names for the websites, but the first name that my wife came up with was SwimSwam. We were considering. I tried to get Swim Network to be a partner and come in as a full partner because they were a big player. And so I talked to Avi, who is the majority shareholder, and said, "Hey, come do this." And he's like, "Content doesn't work, but we'll advertise. And hey, I own swim.com. Why don't you buy it?" It was expensive, but we were considering buying that for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And my wife goes, "Why not just be SwimSwam? You're either a swimmer or a swammer." So 500 names, go back to SwimSwam. At the end of the day, $14.95 were SwimSwam.
Oh,
That's your origin story.
So, meanwhile, you've always been entrepreneurial yourself in content and other areas. Is SwimSwam so consuming now, or do you still keep that entrepreneurial spirit in things, in other projects?
I would like to. The answer is no. It has been all consuming. My wife is a co-founder. My wife has another business. She is absolutely CFO, COO, HR, and I am somebody who, and I go get contracts. We don't eat unless I kill, and I'm out there hunting. So it's so she has a business. We had several businesses that have been great bread and butter businesses, and SwimSwam is a business that has been designed, thankfully, coming out of the USA swimming culture, really watching Chuck, and so I'm 0.001 of our content, and I've been in the background. We have a magazine that's going on 10 years. I've been in the magazine once as a teeny picture to tell the story of how SwimSwam started.
Yeah.
So SwimSwam's built to live without me.
So go back to the beginnings and even today I look at SwimSwam I'm not sure what to call it, but there's like some of these phenomenal independent media outlets that are sports specific. Gymcastic in gymnastics, Sidious in track and field, SwimSwam, just covering the games as coming up as kind of somewhat of an independent. Did you have a rougher road when you were starting, trying to even get credentials? What was the road like?
And to USA Swimming's credit, I think that USA Swimming as an NGB really does their media management well. The mix zone's been really well managed. I don't know that we're gonna have a real conversation here. It's been managed well on balance for as long as I can remember. USA Swimming has done an exceptional job, and with cultivating relationships with writers at Washington Post, New York Times, and that same respect was presented to me with SwimSwam when we were nothing. So I was very grateful for that, and that really helped. I, you don't get the same kind of treatment at World Aquatics or at other events around the world. It took a few years, and honestly, to this day, it's even bumpy today with other organizations. But USA Swimming does it well. Interestingly, uh, at the trials in Indianapolis, it was that was a bumpy road, and we can parse that if you want to talk about that later on the podcast.
So I do want to talk about trials, and if you want to bring that back, great. But so you made your Olympic team in 1992, 3,000 seat natatorium in Indianapolis at the time to NFL stadium, and you've seen everything in between. I parse things into there's the competition, what happens in the pool, and then there's the event. So around it, the event. What was your take on being in a temporary pool in an NFL stadium compared to other things?
Coming from when people ask me to describe my moment in swimming, I describe it as, in summer league swimming, you would have your league meet and then you'd have a covered dish dinner like you would at a church after a church cookout. There was a moment where I went to U.S. Nationals in the early 80s, and we were eating the covered dish dinner afterwards. It was, it wasn't a lot different. When I first saw Matt Biondi, he was a luminary in swimming, first swim at national championships, I remember he swam. There was no waiting room. He walked up, swam, and got out after he swam, and that was mind blowing to me. And kids surrounded him. It wasn't very professionalized. By the time I went to trials, it started to become more professionalized, but it was still tiny. It was crickets in between. It was a small meet. I think you were there. It was I think that you were there during the 2004 trials. Were you okay,
Yeah.
2004?
No, that was in Long Beach. I was not there for that.
2004 in Long Beach, I saw it was bumped up. By 2008, it was I think Omaha was a big mind blowing experience. Honestly, 2008 to 2021, really, because of the pandemic, that Omaha really became a well-oiled machine, and just a comfortable. It almost became a comfortable shoe, and I think that we wanted to grow
Yeah.
for the next one. And I would say that it was shaky, it was scary. The USA Swimming did pull it off, and there were a lot of smart things that were done to I think it was like making sausage in the background, but it happened, and we had. To USA Swimming's credit, we did have a night where we had 22,000 ticket sales. I don't know if there were actually 22,000 people actually bought tickets, but it works. I think it'll work going forward, and I think it's a feather in the swimming community's cap in a post Phelps era.
It's a great way to describe it because that was certainly a draw. My times as there were, gosh, in a golden era of swimming, of Phelps, Franklin, Coughlin, even just the beginning of the Ryan Murphys of the world and the Caleb Dressels of the world. So it's good to see it as such a spectacle. And actually, kind of sitting on the couch side for this one trials is pretty magnificent. So
in the venue, it was they were. I talked to staff a lot. They were clearly making notes, and the feedback I got about it, the in-house experience was they were fixing it, trying to on the fly and making notes for the next one. And 10% got it all right. A lot of things are obvious. They're going to move seating in closer to the pool, so there's not so much space.
Yeah.
They've learned a lot in terms of chasing that whale of ticket sales, which was a challenge. And that's not expertise, but they learned a lot in that process. Uh, so there were some things in house that were shaky, and I'm okay with someone going into a new venue and pulling off because you can definitely see the potential. The interesting thing was we had some peers who were some big writers from a lot of big publications, and in the background, I don't want to name any names because I think they might be writing about it later as a debrief for the debrief of the Olympics. But the grumblings that I heard was that you've put these are writers with 30, 35 years of experience, big audiences. You've put a swimming venue in a football stadium. It would be great if I could get an interview rather than stand by butt stroke swimming and have the same access as butt stroke swimming. And butt stroke swimming was somebody who was a social media person who had a small following. And this writer with 35
Oddly,
years,
I'm not as familiar, but
and this writer with 35 years experience, a huge platform, had the same access to our luminaries, and that was very frustrating.
uh, well, let's go. Well, first of all, anyone watching on YouTube, it's going to be fascinating to watch this picture falling in real time behind me. But Paris. So for the non-swimming person, I just saw it over my shoulder. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna come. So we'll just be on picture watch. But the NBC content machine, no doubt about where Katie Ledecky is. But are there people or storylines that you're really watching that I think will really American general non-swimmer day to day will just really enjoy and appreciate?
I put this Olympics into context. I would say that on paper, heading into it, we look like the 1992 Olympic team, my Olympic team, which is the weakest we've had.
Hmm.
And we've been stronger in 96, 2000, 2004, up to present day. Uh, However, Team USA has always had this. So we're going to be fighting for podium position in a lot of races. We don't have a lot of sure gold medals or sure medals, but we do have a history of being on the ropes and performing well. And I think that we could actually do well. But this is a nail biter. Medals that we think that we have in the can, of course, Katie Ledecky, 1500-meter free, 800 free. Why that matters and why fans should care is because the entire narrative is going to be this is when Katie Ledecky will officially become the greatest female swimmer of all time. She has 10 medals, 7 gold, 3 silver. She will, with the 800 free, 1500 free, that would put her at 12. That has her tied with Natalie Coughlin, Jenny Thompson, Dara Torres for the most celebrated female swimmers in history. And Natalie's probably going to pick up a silver or bronze in the 400 free, plus a relay medal, putting her over the edge. So this will be her crowning moment, and that's a big story. That's going to be probably the biggest story in swimming.
That's great. I'll call it the 2010s in particular. You're looking at the picture, I can tell.
No, I'm not.
Okay. The 2010s, Australia not to the level of relevance that they had been in the past, maybe are now. That rivalry really seems to be coming back over the last, call it 5 years, give or take.
Absolutely. The U.S. versus Australia is always fun because I don't want to get it wrong, but don't quote me, but it's roughly this. The United States is 350 million people. Australia is about 21 million. It's like Southern California. Um, and Australia brings the talent over and over and over. And right now they're on an upswing. The entire you could you could say that this entire match is best represented and crystallized between Kaylee McEwen of Australia, who's the defending champion in the 100 200 backstroke, facing off with Regan Smith in the 100 200 backstroke, among other events. And that's where we're going to see that Australia versus the United States really get emotional. At least that's the way it's been building up on SwimSwam. And then, of course, in the relays, we felt that our relay was sort of on the ropes. We didn't know what to expect because we have another big star, Caleb Dressel, who won 5 gold medals at the last Olympic Games. And he had a mental health moment and really just tapped out for about a year while he got his head straight and really took some time for himself to get back into the ball game. We didn't know if he would do it. That was a nail biter, and he showed up at trials and he did it. So I would say that our relays were on the ropes, and now as we stand, I think that our relays are going to be tough to beat in the men's. And but on the women's side for Australia, I don't know how 4x1, 4x2 free relay. It's going to be tough. Our medley strong, but on the women's side, I think it's going to be hard to beat Australia.
So maybe the state of swimming with a little s, just the sport in general. I mean, yes, I'm looking at the Olympics of, okay, trials and Paris and then LA, prospect of being in SoFi Stadium there. What is the state of swimming? Like at the elite level, at the youth level? Is it in a good place? Is it growing? What's your outlook just on the state of the sport, if you will?
I think that in all fairness, we've struggled out of the pandemic, and the reality is,
Yeah.
you're in business or you're in this industry. When everyone stopped swimming, a lot of pools around the country were without swim teams, and aquatics directors went, "Wow, this is kind of nice. We don't have to deal with that programming anymore." So when the teams came back, they said, "No, we're not going to have you back." So capacity for clubs went down. And it is literally going to take, we're looking at until like 2026 before we can build that capacity back. So there's a struggle there, and that's real. Another standpoint is there's probably some grievances between the coaching community and the governing body itself, and that's been brewing for a few years. And coaches have always said they were going to move to the AAU, which is where swimming used to be pre-1980. It was AAU until 1979. We switched to USS, and that became USA Swimming. For the first time in many, many decades, coaches have actually taken the AAU option. USA Swimming was down 4.6% on registration. And if anyone did their homework or made a phone call, they would know that it went to AAU. So swimming is an unusual situation where inside the Olympic ecosystem, we've got to go to coaches and clubs and make the case for USA Swimming and services and support. And that's going to be the focus probably for the next year, 18 months, post-Olympics.
Well, sometimes you get so focused, you think of USA Swimming, USA Track and Field, whatever, you think of the Olympics, but at their heart, it's a grassroots youth sports organization. And some of those decisions, at least in my time, were made based on insurance coverage. And it was less about my kids trying to make the Olympic team. They didn't care about the Olympic team. That wasn't in their field of vision. But what they pay per head for insurance coverage for slip and fall on the deck, that's very impactful to a swim club or a coach. So
USA Swimming has wanted for a long time. It's been discussed for a long time to have registration at the website, and you want to control that information, that data.
Yeah,
there's an argument to make for that because we had the abuse scandal, and we got past that with Safe Sport and an outside agency, and that's largely been taken care of. It works. It's almost like having our own USADA or World Anti-Doping or US Anti-Doping. So we have this separate agency that can manage that. But it's this is We're in a bit of a tough spot. The insurance topic is really interesting. So we took registration back to USA Swimming, and that we wanted that for a while. When we tried to do it, we went from 56 LSCs paying a check-in based on registration to 330,000 people registering. So we went through a many month period where we weren't sure if athletes
Hmm.
were insured. We had coaches on deck saying swim, and you have to be registered to have insurance. So
Yeah.
we've had a bumpy road.
Yeah. Well, let let's look forward a little bit. I want to give you the last word. Shameless plug. Something on your radar personally. SwimSwam. What's next? What's something I didn't ask?
I think we're moving into an era where it's very clear that we're it's a I feel like our government and all powers that be have sort of abdicated power to Silicon Valley, and tech is taking everything over. Whether you're a television network, a film studio, or it comes down to the San Francisco Chronicle, and that's kind of scary. And in my world, the only option is to be overwhelmingly number one and be the best. I don't know what things look like on the other side when these technological behemoths have everything. And the case in point is we're going to watch this Olympics, but I don't know what the numbers are going to be, the ratings are going to be for NBC Peacock, because I think a huge part of that audience is going to interface on social, and that's great and that's fine, but it's NBC that pays for the rights, that pays the budget, that pays the IOC, that pays the USOPC. And as an old school Olympian, that concerns me. I'm concerned about future revenue.
Yeah. They'll try to benefit TikTok, benefit from TikTok and everything, but how's it driving viewership back on the mothership? Yeah. I think it's,
We
you
used
can't
to.
ignore it. And so you kind of hope you convert it.
A lot of people at SwimSwam, a lot of people on our team get frustrated because they're young people and they want to use media, and I have to tell young people that doesn't belong to us. That doesn't belong to us. Doesn't belong to you. Someone owns that. They have rights to that, and that's how they earn money, and that's what supports.
Well, Mel, if anything I knew coming into this conversation, I knew it was not going to go as planned, and it has not, but it's actually part of the beauty of my relationship with you, and I love it. So thank you so much.
We're gonna do this. I want to come back on and I want to talk about just how something interesting where it makes sense and dogs don't bark and paintings don't fall.
You got it. You're in.
Good,
Mel, great to see you. Thank you, sir.
good to see you too.